An Eastern Kentucky sheriff appeared before a judge today to answer to a murder charge.
Sheriff Sean Mickey Stines is accused of killing District Judge Kevin Mullins. In court, there was discussion about whether Stines qualifies for public assistance, a public defender. WKYT's Phil Pendleton has more on what happened today in our top story at 6.
A sheriff charged with the capital crime of murder.
Your Honor, he would enter a plea of not guilty and request a date for preliminary hearing.
Sheriff Mickey Stines is accused of shooting Judge Kevin Mullins after the two had an argument in Mullins' office Thursday. Jackie Steele was appointed special prosecutor and presided over the arraignment Wednesday.
But this is any case to me. I'm not going to treat it, it's going to be treated any different one way or the other. It'll be just like every other case, every other murder case I've prosecuted in my 20-plus years as a prosecutor.
For now, Sheriff Mickey Stines remains here in the Leslie County Jail, which is about an hour from Letcher County. There was no mention of any kind of bail or reduction in bail during the hearing this morning.
It's due to the fact that you aren't indigent.
There was debate in the hearing over whether Stines qualified for a public defender.
Sir, it's my understanding that he's in the process of losing his job as a sheriff of Letcher County, obviously, and will not have income going forward. His family is not prepared for this eventuality. And again, I think the cost of defending one of these cases can reach well into the several $100,000.
The judge agreed to let a public defender represent Stines to the preliminary hearing, which will be next Tuesday. But if he is indicted, he may have to find paid counsel. In Leslie County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
And the judge said the state police will transport Stines to his next court hearing in Morgan County next week.